Hello, 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 and welcome to Courageously Kind. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Liz. We're twin sisters and best friends.
Together, we share stories of especially kind humans doing especially kind things, in hopes that these conversations motivate and inspire you to be kinder to yourself and others. When we're not speaking with an incredible guest, we'll speak directly from our hearts about what it means to us to be courageously kind. Well, hello, and welcome back to Courageously Kind. We are back with another interview for you this week. We had the absolute honor of chatting with Jenn, who is the creator of That Good News Girl. It's a TikTok page and also an Instagram page at this point, and she posts daily good news videos. You guys, this is just like, it's the perfect way to start your day or end your day or just brighten your day if you need a little bit of good news and optimism. Jenn was so awesome, and we had a great time chatting with her about what inspired her to start this TikTok page and also what keeps her motivated to continue sharing good, uplifting, optimistic news on a platform that is not necessarily always happy or optimistic or uplifting. So Jenn is such a gift to the internet, and we are so grateful for her time and for her sitting down and chatting with us. So Jenn, where are you from, and what are some things you like to do for fun? I'm sorry for the cheesy, corny icebreaker question.
You're okay. So I'm from Southern California. I kind of like all over Southern California. I grew up in Orange County. I went to undergrad at UCLA, so I spent 4 years in LA, and then I did my master's in San Diego, so I went to San Diego. So I was there for a few years, and I actually just moved to Vegas, like literally just last week. So
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What has that been like?
It's been really great so far. I like it. I have some family and a few friends here, so I'm excited about it. It's definitely very new still, but yeah, I'm excited.
That's so exciting. Can I ask what your degree is in? We're just so curious because we're college students. And
So my bachelor's from UCLA is in linguistics and in German. And then I did my master's in speech pathology.
Amazing. One of the school we're going to has a really big speech pathology program, so a lot of our friends are
awesome. What school do you go to?
We go to Marywood. It's in Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Oh, Scranton.
Yeah, like The Office.
Scranton.
Yeah, but yeah, speech is a really big thing there. Yeah, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
Liz's favorite icebreaker question.
Okay, I feel like you can tell a lot about a person. If you were a kitchen appliance, which one would you be?
Or like a utensil.
Yeah.
Something found in the kitchen.
God. Oh, I love this question. This is right up my alley. I feel like if I were a kitchen appliance, I would be a toaster.
So good.
Because like toasters, they're just like there and they're quiet, and then all of a sudden they surprise you. And I feel like that's kind of like me. Like I come across as very like reserved and shy, and then once I am in a safe space with the right people, like, I come out of my shell.
I love it. I love this question. People are so creative with their answers. I love it.
So cool.
I think.
Did you come up with that question? That's a great question.
I love it.
That's great.
My favorite.
What is yours?
Oh, I had a really good answer and I don't remember it.
I think mine was a wooden spoon. Like
classic,
dependable. I like to stir things together. Stir the pot. No, I'm just kidding.
That's a good answer.
One of our friends had a blender because they like to bring people together. It's just
that's good. That is creative.
Silly.
It's so silly though. I love it. Getting to some more serious stuff, not serious, but why we're here to talk today. What inspired you to start your TikTok account? You have a TikTok account where you share good news daily, which is so awesome. What inspired you to start that?
Yeah, so I just started this like a couple months ago. So I started in January. But I feel like the seeds of it were like started long ago. So let me give you my whole life story for the last
Please do. I love it.
So I feel like my life really changed a lot in like 2018. So 2018, to set the stage, like things were going really well for me. I had just graduated with my bachelor's, and I had just gotten into like my dream master's program, so things were going like really great. And then my dad was actually diagnosed with a brain tumor that year. So in the midst of like all of this great stuff that was going on, like that was just such a hard hit and so life-changing. And like my dad was my favorite person. Like we were very close. That he's one of like maybe 3 or 4 people in my life that like, you know, really understood me. Those kinds of people like just don't come across, like you know, have that many of those people in your life, and he was one of them. So I remember at the time like talking with him, deciding like, should I not even go get my master's? Like, should I stay here with you and like not do this? And he really encouraged me to still do it. So I went, and I my master's program was like an hour away from where he lived. So I spent like every weekend going back. But I did the master's program, and you know, I'm glad that I did, and he was glad that I did. And so that went until 2020, which it was hard, but like I still was able to enjoy the time there and be a student and everything. And then my dad actually passed away February of 2020. So this was right before the whole pandemic, everything. So like it was February. So it was literally weeks before all of the shutdowns.
Oh my gosh.
So the whole like year, the next year was kind of just like a blur to me. So like on top of dealing with that grief, like there weren't a lot of, I graduated that year from my master's in the middle of 2020. There weren't a ton of jobs available. So the job that I ended up getting was like an hour away from literally anybody that I knew. So at that period in time, like I'm dealing with like this intense grief. I am an hour away from anyone I knew. Like the whole world is exploding with COVID and like things are getting really wild. And then on top of that, I actually started to like really question if I even liked the job that I just got a master's degree for. So like there was just so much going on in my life at that time, and it was like it was a dark time for me. All of 2020 and 2021 were like kind of just like this dark blur for me, but like I did a lot of work on myself in that time. And I did get into like a better headspace. I think by like 2022, I was starting to feel, you know, just like a little bit better. And then in the middle, like towards the end of 2022, like in September or something, my mom was diagnosed with cancer, and this was a reoccurrence for her. So this was like the 3rd time for her, but it was the first time that she was dealing with it without my dad. So I temporarily moved back in with her, and you know, we were getting through it. Like she's fine now. We'll start with that. Like
good.
Yeah, she just finished chemo like a month ago, and she's doing well now. But you know, just another hit. So I was in January of this year, I was living with her, and I just got a cold. I was sick. And because she was going through chemo, like I was completely isolating from her because I didn't, couldn't risk her getting sick. So I was like sitting isolated in my room, really bored and watching a lot of like TikTok and news. And I was just like, everything I was seeing was so negative. Like, and so I had spent the last 2 years like basically trying to keep my mental health afloat. And I was just like sitting in my room, reading all of this, watching all of this negative stuff. And I realized like, I just had a moment where I realized that like allowing all of this negativity to consume me, and being angry at the world and like deciding that everything is terrible, that was the easiest choice that I could make. Like that would be so easy for me to do. And I could easily spiral again. I could easily, like get into all of this negative stuff. So I realized that like if I to keep myself out of that space, I needed to be so intentional with like finding positivity.
Yes.
So it was just in that moment, I was like, I'm going to sit down here. I'm going to stop like watching all of the media that is being thrown at me. And I'm going to intentionally look up some good things that good people are doing, because I know that that is still happening in the world.
Yes. So important.
Yeah. So that's literally what started it. Is I was just personally like, I'm going to look up some good news because I feel like I need it. And if you like scroll back on my feed and go to my first post, like you can tell I was sick, like my voice is all off. And that was like the first time I posted something. Is I just saw a story that I liked and I was like, oh, I'm going to talk about this on TikTok. And I absolutely did not expect it to go anywhere or anyone to see it at all. Which is really funny, but that's how it started. And it's just like in the last 2 months is like really resonated with a lot of people.
So awesome.
Oh
That is so awesome. We have a similar sort of origin story of like, we started in 2020 because like you, we were just so overwhelmed and sick of this constant, bad, scary, heavy, overwhelming news cycle. And so it's really cool to see other people out there that are saying, no, like we can be intentional with what we consume and what we share. And yeah, we love that.
Yeah.
We totally
And exactly like what you said, like that intentionality, I think is what it is. That's what it's all about for me is the intentionality, because if you literally just sit there and allow like yourself to hear whatever comes at you, it's all bad. It's all bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to be intentional with that.
Yeah.
Like that's the key.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Do you have any tricks for being intentional? Are there certain sites that you just avoid completely? Anything like that?
So I only allow myself a little bit of like listening to the news on TV. Like I used to have it on like all the time just as background noise, but now I'll only let myself have it on for like a half hour, maybe get some of the highlights, and then put on like one of my shows that I actually like having on in the background, like New Girl or
yes. I love it.
So yeah, I like definitely limit my actual news consumption, I guess. And I can read about those things if I want to. Like I like to stay, you need a balance too. You need to know what's going on in the world, of course. But if you only listen to what the news is showing you, like the negative stories get the ratings for them. So that's what they're going to show you. So I think you can allow yourself to have some of that, but then I have to like look up the good news on my own.
I love that. I love that. And I love that you are making good news more easily accessible to people too. You know what I mean? Like it is hard to find those stories out there, but if you're just scrolling through TikTok and you come across one of your TikToks, that's so easy and accessible. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's so cool that you guys found me that way too. And like I said, like I never expected anybody to see it at all. Like really.
And now you have like you have like over 100,000 followers on TikTok, right?
Yeah, I have like 120,000 now. It's so weird.
What has the reception on TikTok been like? Has it been mostly positive? Have you gotten some negative stuff? And if you've gotten some negative stuff, how do you deal with that and navigate that?
Yeah, like it's been largely positive. Like it's been 99% positive. Like it seems like a lot of people they really want good news and they're happy to see it. And but there's always going to be those few like trolls or people who want to be negative. I think every single story, maybe not everyone, almost every single story I've posted, there has been at least one person who has come up with a reason why it is not good news. Like always going to be there. And it's fine. Like I don't let that get to me. What I've had a harder time like dealing with, and I'm still trying to figure out, are like the negative like personal comments. I'm like, I don't know. I'm a human. Like that's hard to deal with. I originally started out trying to respond with just like overwhelming kindness. Like and just those people are often not being super reasonable, and it's just like it takes a lot of my energy. So more recently I'm just deleting and blocking, honestly.
Yeah. That's
I
what we do too. Yeah.
Yeah, do you? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if for me and probably for you guys too, like if you're gonna keep doing this, it has to be fun and it has to be energizing, right?
Yeah.
So you have to give your energy to the people who are being positive and who are encouraging you rather than to the people who are being negative.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like you have tried to like respond with a ton of kindness and overwhelming kindness, and sometimes it's just the other person is not open to receiving that and is not in a space where that is beneficial. So
I completely agree with that. And honestly, like I have empathy. I have a lot of empathy for these people because, like I explained to you guys, I like have been at a point in my life where I turned everything negative and I wanted to just react to everything with like, honestly, like meanness. Like it just, and that was the lowest point of my life. And I really can only hope that people, don't stay there forever.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But also like knowing that like you said, this has to be fun and energizing and fulfilling to us too, the creators. So setting those boundaries and just blocking or deleting is totally healthy.
I have like a hefty block list. Yeah. I'm not gonna apologize for that.
You shouldn't. Yeah. Setting those like online boundaries, I think are something that I think everybody's still trying to learn how to navigate. Like, who do we follow? Who do we not follow? Like, your social media is yours, and you're allowed to set those boundaries if you want to.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, getting back to good news, where do you find your good news stories? Because, like you said, a lot of major news networks, they're trying to sell these really bad stories because that makes them money. But where do you find your good news?
Yeah, so I have a couple like go-to places. A lot of the time I just start by Googling like good news today.
Perfect.
Which sometimes works, but sometimes it's I have to dig a little deeper. Some of my go-to places are actually on Reddit. People are telling a lot of like very kind of like small stories that wouldn't make it to like the big news, but are still like wholesome and you want to hear about. So there are a couple like subreddits I go to. There's one called Uplifting News. There's one called Made Me Smile that I go to and find like people are just like talking about wholesome things. And yeah, there are a couple others. There's Good News Network. There's Good, and I saw you guys interviewed. It was Brendan.
Yes.
So Good. Yeah, that's one place where I sometimes get stories. Those are probably all my go-tos, but I do really actually like Reddit because I'm a little bit picky with what I choose, and the specific thing that I try to find are smaller stories. And I say smaller with air quotes because I think the point is that like the smaller stories are often actually like the bigger ones, the ones that make you feel like, oh, like I could do that in my community, or something that's like a tangible, like possibly tangible for anyone. So like cute little wholesome stories are kind of like my thing.
I absolutely love that. I'm gonna go on Reddit now and look those up. That's awesome.
Reddit is also like one of those things where you have to kind of control where you go and where you don't go, but there are those like little nuggets of goodness in those little subreddits.
Oh, that's awesome. That is so awesome.
This might be a hard question, but do you have any favorite good news stories?
Actually, yes. I think my favorite good news story that I've done so far is definitely the Lonely Goose story.
Yes, this is my favorite too.
I love this story so much. So yeah, it was just a story about this lonely goose, and that she lived at a cemetery by herself, and a bunch of people found her a partner, and they like. I love that they had so many updates too, and they had the first date of the geese that like update on their Facebook page, and they totally hit it off. Oh, this is my favorite story ever.
That is so cute. It sounds like a Pixar short film or something. I love it.
I think it should be adapted into a Pixar film.
For sure. I love it. I love it so much. That's my favorite of your good news stories too. We just watched the one with Midnight the cat too.
Oh
The cat
yes,
that's
I
the
like that one.
security dog. I was gonna say I love cats.
Yeah, so I actually want to do more like that, where that one
Yeah.
like wasn't real news. It was just kind of a joke, and it made me smile. Yeah, I love that one too.
It is so good. So good. I would imagine sometimes like it can be hard maybe to find good news or to stay motivated to tell good news, especially when the world feels maybe a little bit heavier, maybe like there's some bad news going on. So how do you stay motivated and inspired to continue to share good news stories with the world?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, like I've actually noticed how much it has positively affected my mood. Like it's kind of like a nightly routine for me now to sit down and like search for good news. And just the act of doing that has just like really helped me like stay positive.
Yeah.
So that is like one positive benefit that definitely keeps me going. And then now that I'm sharing it and people are seeing it, and so many people are saying like, thank you for sharing this, and so many people are clearly like happy that I'm doing it, that is like a main motivator for me now. That like other people like want to see this stuff, and people are telling me like, oh, I come to your page every morning to see what you post, and I'm just like, oh, that's like that makes me so happy, and like that makes me want to keep doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love it so much. One of the questions that we asked Brandon from Good, and I absolutely loved his response, was if he had any advice for people that feel a little bit overwhelmed or discouraged or anxious because of a scary or bad news cycle. I know we talked about intentionality, but is there anything else that you would advise people to do that are maybe feeling a little bit down or discouraged?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing is, for me at least, and I would say for other people, is just to remember that no matter how much bad news you're hearing, no matter how much negative stuff you're hearing, there is good news. Like there are good people, they exist, they are doing good things. Like even if you're not hearing about it, just like have it in the back of your mind that like rest assured that stuff is happening still.
Yeah.
And it might be a little bit harder to find. You might have to be a little bit more intentional to find that stuff. But for me, just like knowing that, like having that assurance in my head that like, okay, I know there are still good people because I know some of them, and like I'm talking to some of them. Like I know that they exist. That keeps, that helps a lot.
Yeah.
And it can be certainly easy to forget that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How can people support you and the work that you are doing to bring good news to the internet, to make it more accessible? How can people find you, and how can people support you as a creator?
Yeah, so I'm mostly on TikTok at That Good News Girl, and I've recently made the same page on Instagram, so you can find me there too. Honestly, just if you like a story that I post, just share it with people. That is like the biggest thing that you can do to help spread the good news, is to literally spread it to other people. If you have a good news story that you think like would be good, of something good going on, I also have a link in my bio where you can like submit a story. And I wish that I could do all of them. I can't do all of them. But if you do have one that you think would be great, that's always a way that you can help like spread that story.
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
I love it so much. Jenn, this was so fun. Do you have anything else that you want our listeners to know, that you feel like you want to share? Anything at all? It's okay if you know too.
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess like kind of basically just reiterating the last question you asked me, just like remember that good things are happening all the time. Good things are out there, and try to surround yourself with that more than you waste energy on the negative.
Yes. Totally agree. Totally agree. Thank you so much, Jenn.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for having me. This was so fun.
We had so much fun too, and the wind held off. It's getting really windy now. I don't know if you can hear it, but right before we were about to do this, it was like so windy, and I was like, oh my gosh, like the microphone.
Are you like in the midst of a snowstorm right now?
Kind of, sort of. I think it's almost done. We did not get as much as they said. We only got about 4 inches. They were calling for like 14, and we were like, oh my gosh. But yeah, I think it sort of missed us. But Yeah. Hopefully.
You have, oh no, you're on spring break right now, so you don't have to worry about
Yes.
this, right?
Yeah.
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 No snow days.
Yeah. Spring break in a snowstorm, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. We're making the most of it.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm glad you guys are surviving the snow.
Thank you. Hopefully this is the last
Yeah.
of the
knock on wood.
snow and that spring is coming. We'll see.
Yeah, and then you can have like a mini weekend spring break.
Yes,
There you go.
exactly.
In
Exactly.
spring.
Yeah, in actual spring.
You know, when I think about Jenn's story that she so graciously shared with us, I think about that quote that goes, "If you can't see the light, be the light." And that's really what Jenn is doing. She's being the light for other people, is shining some positivity into what can be a pretty negative scrolling throughout your day. So we are all so grateful for Jenn. We are so grateful that she took the time to chat with us. And if you haven't already, please, please, please go check her out. I guarantee you will be a little bit happier. We'd like to give a huge thank you to Annawalt's Landscape Contracting for their support of Courageously Kind.
Annawalt's is a family-owned landscape contracting company in Berks County that has served Pennsylvania for over 35 years.
If you're ready to get your landscaping project started, visit annawaltlandscape.com or call 610-916-7070.
Annawalt's Landscape Contracting, beautifying Pennsylvania 1 yard at a time.
Thank you so much for listening. If you like this episode, feel free to share it with your friends, your family, or anyone you think might like it too.
And if you want to support the show, leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It really does help. Or check out our merch store at courageouslykind.org. Take good care, and we'll see you back here real soon.